Hi there, this is Linda and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. In this video, I'm putting together my Project Life spread for the week of September 16th through September 22nd, 2024, and I'm working with a variety of supplies from my stash, including an older Studio Calico kit and some supplies from Coco Daisy. Let's go ahead and dive right in. So this was the week of September 16th through 22nd, and I'm just using up some older supplies. So I saved a couple of cards from the Coco Daisy September kit. They have these calendars that I've really liked, and I also really like this card. And it doesn't say the year, but I thought it would make a cute filler and kind of goes along with that. And then I printed all these 3x4 photos. I also have this piece of ephemera from Hubman and Shubgirl. I partnered with them for a previous video. And for my first video that I partnered with them, they sent me this little thank you and welcome. I think they send this to everyone for their first purchase. But it's super cute, so I wanted to include it. And then I'm just going through my photos and kind of laying out. This week, not a ton was going on. It was my boyfriend's birthday, so we celebrated that. I swapped out some shelves in my craft room. I went out to dinner with my daughter. This is the shelves. And then just normal life stuff. So I think that's kind of a good starting place. Then I have this kit. I wrote August or September because I thought this kit worked well for either of those. But these are pieces of an older Studio Calico kit that I am working through. I haven't gotten their kits in a few years, and I also just heard that they are no longer going to be creating these kits, which is kind of a shame. But I am going to use up some of these pieces. So I've already used this at least for one spread, probably a couple of years ago, and I can tell it is an August kit because it says right there, August vibes. Clearly, I'm not going to use that because this spread is in September. And I don't know that I want to use either of these there, so I might pull something from my stash too. But I'm going to kind of just go through these cards and try to fill in the pockets. And then maybe I'll pull some stuff from my stash to fill in the rest of the pockets and start working on this spread. But I think I'm going to go ahead and put you guys on fast forward while I do all of that. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do here is just flip through all of the cards in the Studio Calico kit and think about which ones I might want to include. Some of these definitely don't work because they are like back to school themed and stuff, which just doesn't fit my life or what was going on at this particular time. I really love that tape one. I think it's super cute, but it didn't really fit for this spread. But I'm just looking through ones that might work or that I like the colors. The one that says awesome there, I was thinking I can cut that one out. There's two different striped ones, so I thought I didn't want to use both, but maybe one of them would look good, and I do end up using one of them. And then you can see I have a few extra spots where I didn't select a card. So the next thing I did was went over to my stash of 4x6 cards that are fall themed. So if you have watched my videos in the past, you might have seen that I have a video up that I put up a couple years ago, I believe now, that was sharing how I organize my Project Life cards in my stash. And I highly recommend checking that out if you are curious about how to organize your cards and make sure that you are actually using your stash. So one of the categories I have are specific seasons. So this is my fall seasons, and there are all the 4x6 cards. So I'm just going through and seeing what I might want to include. That card that says September Life, I really love it, but if it's not going to be a title card with the dates, which I don't need it for, it seemed too plain to me, and I did have more journaling to include. So what I'm going to end up doing is creating my own journaling card. I pulled over this grid cardstock from my stash, and I'm going to use it to create a journaling card on this 4x6 spot that has this September Life card cropped down. So this card is from Allie Edwards. It's an older card. I believe it's probably from a September Stories by the Month from a previous year. And the colors just worked perfectly with the colors of the Studio Calico kit that I was using, which was just a happy accident. And you can see there I cropped it down. It's not truly a 3x4. It's smaller than 3x4 so that I do have a little bit more space to journal. On this card, I'm also using that grid paper as a background to adhere this ephemera from Hubman and Chub Girl. If you missed that video, I will link it down in the description box below if you'd like to see more about the products that I received and shared here. You can see from this card that their icons are so cute. Their little drawings are adorable. So I'm very excited to work with them more in the future. I pulled over some labels from my stash. These are older ones from Kelly Perky Shop. And what I'm going to do is use one of them on this card here to just journal a little bit about my experience with Hubman and Chub Girl and why it is worth documenting in my album. I love storing or putting ephemera in my album, but sometimes I think it needs a little bit of context. Other times I think it doesn't, and it kind of speaks for itself. And this one, I guess, could have, but maybe I wouldn't remember that this was from a collaboration as opposed to a purchase. And I liked having the ability to just add a little bit of text on there without making it into a huge story. So this week was my boyfriend's birthday. So the September life card, I decided here I'm going to journal about his birthday. And I was looking through the chipboard pieces in the kit, trying to find one that looked good. Because this is a 4x6 card, even though I kind of turned it into 2 3x4 cards, although they're not perfect 3x4, I wanted to have something kind of overlap that connecting line to take advantage of the fact that this is one full pocket. And so I don't have to have them be separate. I kind of messed up my gluing there. I'm not great at gluing things straight, but I ended up getting it to work out. And then I pulled over these stamps, which were a newer purchase from Amazon. And I originally purchased these particularly to use in my journal, but I'm going to use them in scrapbooking too. I just felt like I needed more number stamps, and I've really been reaching for the wood stamps more than the cling ones for the just like general things like numbers. So I stamped 38 for the age he's going to be, and then I decided to move on for a little because I wasn't entirely sure how I wanted to do that card. For this little banner, I'm just cutting it out of this card and turning it into an embellishment. This is one of my favorite ways to use Project Life cards, is to turn them into embellishments. And that way you can use a lot more of the cards too. If you are like me, they tend to pile up, especially with these Studio Calico kits that have so many cards in them, that turning them into embellishments is a great way to use more of them on your spread. So I just added it on that photo of my new shelves, and then I'm just adding a little bit of chipboard. This card here, it was a pattern card that was in the Studio Calico kit. I really loved it, but I didn't want another just like pattern filler card, and I had more journaling to include, so I pulled that circle from my stash. I have my large embellishments organized by shape, so I was able to just dig through my circles and find one that would work for journaling. I'm moving on to this card for now, which is going to just be a bullet point list, and it has that darker section at the bottom, or was the bottom, so I flipped it to make it the top and added a title in there with a chipboard piece from my stash because I didn't want to write on that dark portion. Sometimes in the past, I have written on the dark portions, and then I would tend to use like a white Sharpie creative marker. But in this case, I felt like this was a good way to use that dark section. I'm pulling over my favorite wood alpha stamps from Amazon. And I have my favorite supplies linked down below. So if you're interested in any of the products that I'm using that are still available, specifically like the ones from Amazon, I do have all of those linked down below. And those are affiliate links. And when you purchase through them, it helps support my channel and helps me to have the time to make more of these videos. So I very much appreciate that. Anyways, I'm moving on to this card here, and what I'm going to do on this one is journal about my craft room. So one of my plans or goals for the next like 2 quarters is to redo my craft room. So you guys, if you've been following me for a while, you know I redid my laundry room earlier this year, and that was a super successful like contained home project, and I love how it turned out. Then me and my boyfriend started on redoing I had an extra bedroom in my house that wasn't being used for anything. And we decided to turn it into a reading room. And that's still in progress. We had some travel and some other things going on, so we didn't really have time to do a lot of the shopping. And some of the things I think are going to be more of like an over time approach to kind of filling the shelves and stuff. But while we're working on that one, I wanted to also redo my craft room. So my craft room was the first room I did in my house when I first moved in 2020, because it is a place that I spend so much time. And I spent the time to organize it, decorate it, and I loved it for a while. But I feel like I've outgrown the current organization system. I've outgrown the current decor system. I just want like a different style. I feel like my style has evolved. And one of the mistakes I made was in my previous house, I also had a craft room, which I decorated and I loved so much. So when I moved into this house, I kind of recreated the decor in that one. I had an accent wall that was teal, so I did the same thing here. I had a gallery wall on that, so I put the same one up. I had a teal couch, which I just moved with me. And I guess just with it being in a different space, it wasn't the same. So I want to go in a completely different direction and redo my craft room. Again, it's probably going to be a little at a time, but I am going to try to share that process with you here on YouTube, most likely in the new year. Back to what I'm doing in the video. So I finished the journaling card about my craft room redo, about the current stage of that, which is just switching out those shelves. And then I'm creating my own journaling card here. So I really loved that yellow starburst card in the kit, but I didn't need another just like patterned filler card again. I think that's something with the Studio Calico kits. They have a lot of these like patterned filler cards, which is just not something I use that much of by themselves. So I have to find more creative ways to use them. So I cropped it down and added it to more of this grid paper. And I'm creating my own journaling card here, and I'm journaling about my weekend. So this week was pretty busy, but the weekend, my boyfriend went away for the weekend. So I had kind of the house to myself. I met up with my daughter. I had some craft stuff going on, and it was just kind of like different from my normal routine. So I wanted to journal about the weekend as a whole on this card. You can see me kind of pausing here in between journaling, and that's because I'm looking at my Hobonichi Cousin off screen. In my Hobonichi Cousin weekly sections, I keep track of what I do every day. In a general sense, I'm not, writing down every like 15 minutes, but what I do just generally throughout the day so that I have it as a reference when I go back to work on my Project Life spread. So when I put these Project Life spreads together, it's usually a month or so after the week actually happened. So having that Hobonichi Cousin spread is super key to my ability to remember what happened and write my journaling. I am filling in more details, but once I'm prompted by that spread in my Hobonichi Cousin and the photos, I'm usually able to fill in a lot more of the story. So here I'm just writing about the weekend. I did host one of the story chats this weekend, so I journaled about that. I don't always include like screenshots of those. If you don't know what I'm talking about, the story chats are from Allie Edwards. If you are a Story Kit subscriber, this year I have been hosting a Zoom call once a month to chat about the Story Kit theme. And those are super fun when a lot of people show up and chat, and we have some fun discussions. So I would highly encourage you, if you're a Story Kit subscriber, to check out the classroom and see when the next one is scheduled. I don't believe those are going to continue in 2025 because the Story Kits are no longer continuing, but there might be something else, so stay tuned. Now I'm working on filling in that last card. So none of the cards from the Studio Calico kit worked, so I pulled over the 3x4 stack of fall themed cards from my Project Life card organization. And I went through a few to pick one that I liked. I did really like that one that was Allie Edwards' handwriting, but I decided against it because it had a dark gray background, and this one is next to 3 photos that have a darker background, so I wanted a lighter card, and this one is from Cocoa Daisy. It might have even been from the September kit from this year, but it could have also been October. I'm not entirely sure which kit it was, but it is Cocoa Daisy, and it coordinated well with all of the other colors in the spread.
I went back to that Starburst card because I did have more of it left, and I cut one of the Starbursts out, and then I used it as a backer for a word phrase strip to embellish that photo of pumpkin and my journal and my coffee from one morning. I really like the ability to kind of bring that Starburst shape in again on the left-hand side that is on that card there on the right-hand side to help tie the spread together. You can see that some of the photos I did not add embellishments on, and I felt like they were not necessary this time. Often, if you've watched my videos, you'll see that I do a repetitive treatment on a lot of my photos, and I didn't do that this time, partially because I felt like I had more going on in the journaling cards, and I did include a few specific embellishments on some of the cards. So I felt like it was balanced and decorated enough that I didn't need to add anything else. Moving on to this journaling card here. So this one is a bullet point list of random stories from the week. So again, I'm looking at my Hobonichi Cousin weekly spread to add in the stories that I wanted to tell this week that weren't otherwise documented here. After I finish recording, I am going to journal about my boyfriend's birthday and the celebration and the gifts and everything that we did on that 4x6 journaling card, but I'm not going to share that on here because we're going to blur it out for his privacy. So I'm just finishing up this journaling card. I really like to have a bullet point list like this pretty much every weekly spread to just have a catch-all place for those random little stories. And I feel like that is one of my favorite parts of Project Life is just capturing those little details of life that you otherwise would forget, but they add up to be kind of the story of your life. I am pausing a bit in between each section because I'm reading through my Hobonichi Cousin weekly spread to pull out these stories. And what I'm doing is I only have 5 spots in here. So I want to make sure that I end up with exactly 5 stories. So as I'm looking through my weekly spread on my Hobonichi Cousin, I might identify stories that I could tell on here, but I don't necessarily have to tell on here. And I'm putting them kind of to the side and making sure that I have the right number of stories to fill in here, because what I don't want to happen is to write like a random little story that I read from earlier in the week and then run out of space and see that there was something that was actually important to me that happened on Sunday that was not yet mentioned on the spread. Of course, that has happened in the past, and then I do find ways to include those stories, such as on a label sticker or something else on the spread, but that did not happen this week. So thankfully, I was able to just go ahead and finish up the spread after I did my journaling here. I really loved how this spread came out. I have been doing more of these kind of stash busting spreads lately, and I think I want to do more of them, especially into the new year. If you haven't heard, the story kits are being discontinued in 2025, and instead Ali Edwards is moving to a quarterly kit subscription. The stories by the month kits are still going to be continued, but because I won't have 2 monthly kits from Ali Edwards each month, I will have more space in my album for some of these stash busting spreads, and I'm pretty excited about that. Let me know if you also enjoy the stash busting spreads, or if you prefer when I'm working with a kit or working with a kit for yourself. Here's a look at that completed spread. Thank you guys so much for being here. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. And as always, I hope to see you guys all in the next one. Bye.